eventually, in the whole point, they realized a particular problem, because what they noted was, in their attempt to stabilize everything to a point where they can hold it, they had to readjust, equate the law of balance, because the law of balance was actually causing the ultimate unbalancing. As it is attempting to balance, it was taking the polarities to its ultimate. Within that, we had to pull everything together from the perspective of holding it within a path which they used magnetics. And the magnetics, obviously, they used in conjunction to what you now understand to be gravity. They had to use the pulling force of gravitational forces, which is basically based on the action of spinning, holding in balance, changing the principle of balance, which in itself is the creation of the machine. If one look at the whole point, the point of energy generation through the spinning around an axle within the principle of mathematics and opposing forces was what emerged through the point of polarity after the unbalancing of the equation of existence, and thus the machine was created. Obviously at that stage not really understood, because from the perspective of what you would call UFOs and so on, it didn't work at that principle. It didn't work on the principle of the magnetic forces per se. It worked on the principle of the living forces. Within that spinning, obviously, it caused an interesting thing. It caused a separation between the matter and the life force. So, which means everything started to solidify from a certain perspective. And thus emerging from it would be the living forces within its environment that will support it, intricately interlinked to its source. Similarly in nature, still balancing itself. Obviously, what the beings that was then in control didn't realize was what was really going on, that they are not really directing it, because they were acting on an events horizon. That means events would take place forcing their hand, which is how they eventually had to create heaven. What did they understand is that they have a problem. They need everyone together in existence to keep existence in balance at all cost. So, knowing that nobody is going to agree, because everyone exists in free will, which is actually spitefulness, they therefore forcibly brought them together, very similar to what they are now attempting on Earth through the unification principle. They're understanding the problem is vast, and that they have to bring everybody together under a singular point of control to not destroy the Earth. Exactly the same point occurred. And obviously you can't get agreement, so it's even pointless to ask for it, because in the very nature of man exists an inherent beast, spitefulness, that point where you can say, fuck you. And in that, to contain that spitefulness, so that it has a minimized effect, they designed a system, a mind-consciousness system, within which is contained, within the being themselves, its spitefulness, as thought sufficiently that the being believe it to be real, so that it has a minimized effect on the greater. And the being can continue with their free will within a containment, which is a virtual prison. And within that prison, they can continue with their spitefulness and have a look what exists within your mind as one singular point. Spitefulness. Your perception that apparently you have power. And it exists in containment within you, in absolute powerlessness, because there is nothing you can do in the greater. You are stuck with yourself alone.